Hey ladies and gentlemen of the internet, Adrian here for Digital Dojos. And today we're going to be talking about uncovering Apple's WWDC 2023 event, the Worldwide Developers Conference as it's known. It's an event where Apple goes over a lot of their new hardware and software, and with that, let's jump into the recap. Look, everyone knows the big announcement here was around Apple's Vision Pro headset, the new spatial computing, crazy AR meets VR sort of headset. And that's what I want to spend a bulk of this video talking about, but I want to get through the other stuff too, just to kind of touch on those announcements, and we'll do more in-depth coverage of those software and hardware announcements in the future. But I know a lot of you came here probably for the Apple Vision Pro thoughts. But first and foremost, let's get the software out the way, just high level. Two major software announcements were previewed. That is Mac OS Sonoma, wine country. And to be honest, the updates here aren't anything crazy. I would argue they could have probably integrated this in Ventura, but nonetheless, here we are. It's like a marginal update. Hey, I'm all here for it to continue adding features. They added a lot of customability. I guess apparently screensavers is a feature that they want to tout here. Things like widgets on your desktop that integrate with iOS and whatnot. I would argue the coolest features are this video conferencing stuff that they've been doing lately and doesn't necessarily get a lot of press or coverage. In Ventura, they announced things like the ability to use your iPhone as a webcam, and that allowed you to do things like kind of desk view, where you can kind of get really cool over-the-head shots using your iPhone ultra-wide camera. And then it would tap into things like Zoom, WebEx, so on and so forth. So it takes that kind of hardware and allows you to use it on very popular video conferencing software, which is, again, in this hybrid environment we're in, they're catering to that. Same thing with Mac OS Sonoma. It allows you to do things like this kind of cool presenter view where you can do things like I'm doing now with OBS and do it just built into your Mac. So that's pretty cool. Some other React features that you can do with Mac OS Sonoma, so that'll be interesting. And then with that, there's some other cool features. Safari got some updates under the hood. It finally has profile-based browsing, finally. And other stuff, again, that are just nice quality of life improvements. I'm going to be getting a preview of Mac OS Sonoma in the beta once that comes out officially, so I'm going to be doing a more in-depth preview on the new features. Other things they touch on, gaming performance with their new chips and just improved gaming performance. Not a thing you typically hear synonymous with Mac. They even brought out Hideo Kojima of gaming fame from Metal Gear Solid and whatnot to preview Death Stranding that will be coming to the Mac, which, hey, all improvements in terms of gaming for Mac users is great, but I just feel like there wasn't a lot of hype around that because Death Stranding has been out for quite some time. Obviously, there's a new one coming out, so maybe that's really where they're trying to stir up the kind of press and hype and whatnot. But yeah, it was interesting to see Hideo Kojima collaborating with Apple in that sense. To move on, iOS 17 is the other update that came out that's going to be previewed. Some nice, again, quality of life, customability features. High level here, they have a new contact feature that you can customize your contact screen and contacts for yourself and others. They have a live transcript mode called live voicemail. This is actually really cool for when you get those those calls where you don't really know if it's a telemarketer or somebody you know. It will transcribe the call that's coming in so that you can then decide whether or not you want to answer it. iMessage got some overhaul and some nice quality of life improvements. I think notably the nice thing they finally introduced is filtered search, so you can search within conversations to make things much, much easier. iMessage search has always been terrible in my opinion, so any step towards a better search system in it is a win. And then some other cool little quirky features like stickers and whatnot, FaceTime voicemails, FaceTime for Apple TV using your iPhone. Standby is a feature that essentially turns your iPhone into a glorified alarm clock. It can utilize things like the always-on display, so you can hook it up to like a little nightstand or charging dock, and it can show you live activities on your screen. Nice little feature, nothing crazy. Again, and that's pretty much it with iOS 17. There's a lot of like random stuff under the hood, AirDrop swapping numbers or contacts. It's a feature that an app like Bump did years ago. But yeah, I'm not complaining. There's new things like Journal, which is a diary app that Apple is introducing as a part of their standard apps. Good stuff. Nice little tweaks under the hood, quality of life improvements, but nothing, that's radically going to change in terms of interface. So nothing to worry about there. All right. Next up, let's talk about hardware because there was a couple of new Mac announcements, notably one new Mac announcement and then updates to the existing lines. So the MacBook Air 15 was finally announced. The MacBook Air form factor has always been popular. This is the MacBook Air 13-inch with the M2 chip in it, and this has been a really popular form factor due to its like fanless design, which allows it to be much more thinner and portable while packing that power of the M2 chip. So a lot of people like this, but they wish they could have gotten more screen options similar to the MacBook Pro, which offers like the new 14-inch form factor and smaller form factors. So now with that, the 15-inch MacBook Air is what a lot of people were saying was that perfect sweet spot, while still being super portable. So yeah, you now have the MacBook Air 15 with the M2 chip, and then you got the M2 Max, M2 Ultra upgrades to the Mac Studio and the Mac Pro. Essentially here, the M2 Ultra is like a crazy fast 2-stack chip of M2 Maxes in one. This is just a crazy performance under the hood. This is for the like, not even the prosumer. This is quite literally for like the professional use case scenarios here. It allows you to go up to 192 gigs of unified memory, and this is now coming to the Mac Studio and the Mac Pro. So the Mac Pro is getting some love with these new M2 chips. These are like super crazy performing chips. I have an M1 Max on my MacBook Pro, and again, just that in itself is still a very powerful chip. These M2 editions of it and the M2 Ultra are just, again, taking that to the next level. And this is going to be for those like really professional grade workflows, video editors doing 8K res video, audio editors, sound engineers, graphic design, 3D rendering, all that good stuff is going to be used and utilized on chips like these. And yeah, outside of that, those are the major Mac announcements, which now leads me to the major announcement and the main topic of this video, Apple's Vision Pro. This is an entirely new product from Apple that is entering what I would call the spatial computing space. You're going to hear a lot of people use the term AR because that's what it is, mainly an AR headset, meaning augmented reality. The difference in something like I don't have my Quest here, but my Quest or an Oculus Rift is that those are VR headsets where it's immersing you in a virtual reality kind of environment, like the metaverse, whereas AR is more focused on augmenting that which is already around you. Right? So yeah, this is the new Vision Pro headset, as they're calling it. Look, design-wise, it doesn't look great. I guess you can argue some people it looks terrible, but it's definitely a futuristic approach, right? Like we had renderings of what we thought this would look like, and I think it was actually pretty on par. It's like a futuristic ski goggles, if anything. And all the memes are coming out about this for sure. But this is Apple entering what is known as a spatial computing space and using something like this where, again, you augment the reality around you so you can watch movies, you can browse the web, you can do work and be productive while, being in your physical space and not needing the screens and the battle station and the keyboard and all the crazy stuff. This is all isolated to this this headset, which uses really powerful trackers, LiDAR sensors, all sorts of craziness to really allow you to kind of touch, drag, interact with this interface in front of you. This is what Apple is pushing as like the future of computing. And whether or not that's wrong or right, I do want to commend Apple for even entering this space. It's rare that Apple tries to like come into a space that is so, I would argue, still very early stages. Look, Meta, Facebook, and a lot of other companies have made tremendous strides in this space, and obviously Facebook and Meta have gone all in on this, but very rarely does Apple kind of come into a space like this until it's pretty much established. When Apple came into the space and they talked about kind of defining what it was to be a smartphone or a mobile phone, what it meant to be a tablet, it's true, because when this came out right here, nobody really, there were smartphones that existed, there was phones that were smart, but this really redefined what a smartphone was. No keyboard, touchscreen interface. It didn't even have an app store back in the day on this. Like, it was just the default stuff that you got on the iPhone. But things like this really pushed the bar for what a smartphone could be, what they would cost, how much we would rely on them, and how many other devices that this would replace in our lives, to the point where we have devices like this nowadays. And then they did that with the tablet and the iPad, and they become synonymous with what a smartphone is, what a tablet is. And I would imagine what they're trying to do here with the Vision Pro is become synonymous with what eventually spatial computing will be. Look, the Vision Pro, it's a first generation product, and it's a product right off the bat that I want to say is not for 99% of you watching this video. At its $3,500 entry price point, it's going to gatekeep right off the bat a lot of people from experiencing this. But Apple isn't trying to take the Meta Quest approach of like making this available for the masses. They're trying to come up with a Generation 1 product that will allow them to get a lot of research and data about the space, will allow them to get their foot in the door and show what's capable of this space. And then in time, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, as time progresses and technology gets cheaper and better, I'm sure Apple's already working on the next iteration of what this will be in the future and how they can make this more appealable, more affordable, and just more attractive to the masses. This is them getting their foot in the door. This is their Gen 1 Apple iPhone in a space that may or may not be the future of spatial or of computing as a whole. But yeah, it's not the greatest looking thing. It looks quirky. It has a tether to it, so you can actually see, they try to hide this a lot in the video, but it's very clear, like, this thing is a tethered device. Like, you have to have a battery pack that tethers to this, and the battery pack, I think they have it here somewhere, basically just kind of like sits in your pocket. So it's like this interesting design that I'm trying to find out where that picture is, so you can kind of see a better idea of all the stuff that's going on here with this weird headset that looks like their HomePods. The design language is definitely speaking to Apple's recent release of products. And yeah, they have this kind of perforated design with this, really nice lens, and then this battery pack that essentially is tethered to the device to provide it power, and you essentially just like put that in your pocket so you can walk around and use this. I will say their like Vision OS, or their OS that's behind the scenes for this, looks great, at least from the previews and the renderings and what I'm being told from people who've actually got to try this. The software behind it looks great in terms of the integration. And I think Apple's always done that well. While you could argue, of course, the hardware isn't the greatest looking thing or the coolest looking thing, the way they're integrating this design in your home screen and how you interact with this around the environment you're in and how it can kind of react to that, that looks great. This whole concept, I'm not sure of yet, but I think the Vision OS is really what's going to sell this whole idea and allow people to like really kind of conceive what's possible with technology like this. Even as popular as things like the Meta Quest and products like Nreal and even Google Glass back in the day were, they those type of products didn't hit mainstream appeal. And when Apple as a company does stuff, people look, people listen. It moves the market quite literally, and it moves the industry. Even whether in the wrong or right direction, you can argue, it definitely moves the needle to some degree. So I'm happy to see Apple as a company who's not known for like generally coming out with new products and like redefining products, come into a space like this. Whether or not, again, it's the future of computing is yet to be seen, but I think this is a Gen 1 product. This is a product for developers to get their hands on, to develop apps for, to get that first foot in the door for Apple. And I assure you, years from now, based on how the performance of this goes, Apple is doing this for a reason, and they're doing it in a sense so that they can come out with a Gen 2, Gen 3 product of this that is much more appealable to the masses as a whole and redefining how we look at computing. Because I imagine eventually Apple's going to stop selling the concept of things like these and moving you to spatial computing devices, or even eventually the way that we went from computers and desktops to laptops and laptops to phones and arguably tablets, eventually going to things like, well, headsets and glasses or goggles or however they package it in the future. Look, it's a very interesting thing. As a technology enthusiast, this is something I'm super interested in and want to see how this all plays out in the future. I'll be honest, I'm probably going to be copping one despite that crazy price tag, just to kind of see how this product pans out and how it actually is in person. But again, it's not for 99% of the market out there. So that $3,500 price point is on purpose for Apple, because I think this is a very premium product that they're trying to get their foot in the door. And with that, I do imagine, well, yes, there's a lot of Apple tax here. Don't get me wrong. It's not like 5 times or whatever it X the cost of a Meta Quest. There is some pretty cool hardware in here. And I think when we get to really dive under the hood and understand a lot of the stuff they're doing, it justifies some of the cost, but definitely not all of it. I think a lot of it is in the OS and the Apple experience that they're trying to sell here. I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. I imagine this one is going to be very all over the place. There's going to be people who think this is crazy cool in the way of the future. There's going to be people who think this is ridiculous and stupid and overpriced, which it is. Again, that's not the point of this product, to appeal to the masses. So interested to hear everyone's thoughts and opinions on all the new hardware and software announced today. What are you most excited for to come from this Apple WWDC event? As always, Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the content and channel if you're interested in seeing more deep dives into some of the new hardware and software that's going to be coming out as I get my hands on them. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching.